Hi guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoiler-free review of The Invasion of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. This is the second book in the Queen of the Tearling trilogy. I have done a full review for the first book, so I'll link that on the screen if you haven't already seen that. First off, before we get started, I do want to mention that this book has a number of triggers that I hadn't heard about before reading it. Thankfully, they weren't any of my triggers, but it is interesting that these are some pretty big ones and no one has mentioned it before in reviews that I've personally watched. So there are trigger warnings for spousal abuse, really horrible spousal abuse, rape, and self-harm. So if any of those are a problem for you, it's not something that's skimmed over. Like, all of those are very deeply looked into and shown on the page. So if you are at all bothered by that, probably steer clear of this unless you can get a friend to vet it for you. I do really still enjoy the book, and it shows all those things as being negative. Like, none of it is romanticized in any way, but it is very brutal. First off, let me talk about the world building. I love the world building within this story. I gravitate towards it so much. So within this book, you actually learn that things really aren't exactly how they seem. Within the first book, you know, because it's very blatantly hinted, that this is actually a future world kind of thing. Like, that our present is their past. There's things like different authors that are contemporary authors for us, referenced as like very old authors and stuff like that. So there's this like mix of, is this fantasy, is this sci-fi, what exactly is this? And that just gets built upon within this book in an unexpected way. Like, the way that this went, I couldn't really predict coming, and I really enjoyed that element. It's something that I think a lot of books attempt to do. Like, I know it's a theme vaguely, sort of like it's sort of a subgenre type thing going on. Like, I wouldn't call it a trope necessarily, but it's a thing, and I have not been so engrossed in it the way that I am with this. And I'm being vague on purpose because I don't want you to get, you know, ruined about it. And it's not even something where like, oh, wait for this twist. Like, it's not like that. So it's not like if you're on the lookout for it, it's gonna like ruin it. Like, actually it happens pretty quickly in here, and you get to like delve more into the world and everything. And then even the world that feels very fantasy-esque, that one is really cool too. Like, the magic is interesting. It's a magic system that's not fully explained. I mentioned that in my first review, and I'm fine with that. Like, I don't need my magic systems to be like really scientific in any way. Like, I can do either or. Any magic system is a good magic system for the most part, in my opinion. So this is a magic system that you don't quite get, but no one quite gets it, which is why it's fine. Like, it's not like you as the, you know, reader just don't get it. And I really like that. And just the way that like the politics in this world work and everything is really fascinating to me. Like, I just get so engrossed in it. Next, I'm going to talk about the characters. I continue to love Kelsey with every fiber of my being. I talked about in my first review for the first book that she is like a smidge unlikable, I guess. I guess some people actually, I got some comments on my first review, feel that she was like a little misogynistic and stuff and didn't like other women. I don't get that, and I still continue to not get that. I don't really think that's the issue here. She has a lot of issues with female figures, but specific ones. So it's not like she hates all women. She actually has a lot of women very close to her. A lot of very prominent female characters are in this series, but she has some past, especially with family women, that she doesn't like. And I actually like really like how that's done. Like, how she grows through that. And like, she's 19 in this book, but she feels a lot older because she has to obviously be a ruler, and she, you know, has those moments of kind of being not immature but naive, and those moments get less and less, I feel like, within this book even. Like, she really starts to realize consequences for actions and how things played out and how things aren't really how they seem and how things can look really simple to her before from a distance, but when she's in it, she realizes how hard everything is, and she's just great. And she also has, in this book, a theme that I really enjoy, which is struggling with inner darkness. And it just really gets me, like, every time. Like, she really has to work on the balance of, do you want to give in to this inner power, inner darkness, and like, is that a slippery slope, and what does that mean, and what's for the good of the people, and all of this stuff that's explored within her as a character, I just really love. I also really love a lot of the side characters. They're just people that I want to follow and just know things about, and that I feel very attached to. Her Queen's Guard are wonderful, and you don't know every single one of them, but there are a few prominent ones that you really, really love, and they're all interesting. They all feel like characters that exist in their own world. You know, they feel very real. Like, sometimes you read about characters, especially side characters, and they just feel like they're floating around the main character and like orbiting them. These characters all feel like they have their own separate lives, even if we're not hearing about them all the time, and I really appreciate that. Lastly, let me talk about the plot. Again, I really enjoyed the plot in this one. The only complaint that I have about this series in general is that it has super long chapters. Like 35 to 40 pages, which I am not a fan of, and I wish that they weren't like that, and it hurts me every time, but I still manage to usually sit down and read a chapter or two when I want to read this series, because I just need to know what's happening, I need to know more. So I wouldn't consider this a fast-paced story in any way, but at the same time I'm pulled through it because I want to know all these mysteries, all of these people, all this political stuff. It's very it's a very political story, but there's plenty of magic in there too, plenty of like action-y type stuff. But it's very smart feeling, and the characters have to be very smart and very conniving, and it's not just who has the most powerful magic wins the day kind of thing. It's like there's so many elements to it, and I really appreciate that. And like I said, that whole element of things being more than they originally seemed is in here, and that makes the plot go along really well. And I also just think her writing is very beautiful. So I deeply, deeply appreciated this book. So this was a very satisfying second book, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I am going to be doing a spoilery gush for this book, so I will leave that on the screen if you've already read it and want to check it out. So comment down below and let me know if you have read The Invasion of the Tearling. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye!